Welcome back to Cinemaflix Music Picks. I'm Davey, your host with the most, the beast with the least. Least I can do today is continue on with our album series and joint number 6, the albums that were and the year that was, etc, etc. And despite the fact that I'm wearing a Steve Stills t-shirt, we're looking at Neil Young's World Records, third album in 4 years with Crazy Horse. Colorado, Barn, and then World Records. Scott Young, Neil's dad, on the cover, with Neil and his mammy on the inside that, on the gatefold. I won't go on at depth in this one because I only did the review of the album that came out 2 months ago. But to me, it's the best of this kind of mini trilogy, what I like to call the Nils Lofgren reunion Crazy Horse trilogy, with again Colorado and Barn preceding it. This was produced by Rick Rubin, but I'm so glad that Rick Rubin didn't have too much control of it. The infamous story about Crosby, Stills and Nash wanting to do a covers album, and they wanted to do songs that meant a lot to them, like Blackbird by the Beatles, that they'd done a million times on stage, and they wanted to do those kind of songs that meant a lot to them and inspired them as songwriters. Rick Rubin did his old Johnny Cash trick and just said, I've got loads of stuff by metal artists and alternative and industrial acts that if we did it in your style, wouldn't that be really weird and bonkers? And they were like, is that your one trick nowadays, is it? Just doing that, yeah? Yeah, it is. And according to them, the sessions were a disaster. Obviously, I wish it had happened anyway, because we never did get another Crosby, Stills and Nash record. We never got any CSN or CSNY studio albums after 1999, which is sad. But back to World Records. The reason that this is the culmination of it is thematically it's the most coherent. World Records it's a bit of a pun, but it's going for a record of where the world is at the moment, and it's a record about the world. I'm not sure if it's broken any world records or a bit of triple pun, but there you go. Love Earth kicks us off. Love Earth. It's very much a State of the Union. This is what the record's going to be about kind of track. Very much you look after planet Earth, it'll look after you, and we live in this symbiotic relationship. But then what is here that wasn't on as much on Barn or Colorado is some nice heavy, really heavy distortion. So on my favourite track from the album, I Walk With You, Earth Ringtone, Neil's going crazy with the distortion, and everything's live in the studio and it really sounds, it's raw as hell on some of these tracks. But again, to sweeten it, and what makes it different that you could never have had when Poncho was still on Crazy Horse before he retired, is Nils Lofgren being back gives a virtuosity to either the second guitar player on tracks, or what Nils tends to be playing on here a bit more is slide, pedal steel, or accordion. So some tracks you've got really heavy Neil distortion, as heavy, as fuzzed out as anything on Ragged Glory and Ark. Rust Never Sleeps in places. Sleeps with Angels. But Mirrorball with Pearl Jam, which, by the way, then we're expecting Neil with Pearl Jam's Live in Dublin to be one of the next releases out in the next few months, so look forward to that. It's a 1996 concert. So Nils Lofgren adding these sweeter elements that you'd more associate with the Stray Gators side of Neil Young, with Ben Keith and the legs, being added on top of the really heavy distortion, takes us back to things like Words in Alabama. Takes us back to that still Danny Whitten period of Crazy Horse, where they were a bit more musically inclined, and they weren't, I don't want to say just a garage band or anything, because I love the Horse, but when they were a bit more musical, rather than intensely insane hard rockers as they became when Poncho was added to the lineup. But yeah, it's a wonderful concept record about the themes that matter to Neil and should matter to all of us. About, there are tracks on here about how the politicians are doing nothing real. It's true. Until China and India get their act together, then whatever the rest of us do doesn't make too much of a difference. This Old Planet gets a lovely reprise at the end, but it's a totally different version from earlier on. Completely different, which is cool. And you do get one Crazy Horse epic in Chevrolet, which is so out of place, but wonderfully so. You'd be thinking, why is there a song about celebrating cars, especially an old Chevy, and an album about how we need to save the earth? But there's a gas guzzling song. Well, Neil's been into how to convert, he's written a book about it, how to convert old school cars into non-gas guzzlers and electronic, and pursuing alternative fuels, and etc, etc. So it's really, and it's also a celebration of just saying, look, if we get the climate control under control, then these little vices that we have, like a car, wouldn't be as important. But that's not what's killing the ozone and killing things. It's major factories and massive conglomerates and things. That's really what's, and cows contribute a massive amount. So let's kill them all. Burgers for everyone. Bumper stickers will be provided. But yeah, so this is just a great live in studio record that tells you where Neil's mind's at, where his heart's at, where his spirit's at, and has a lovely motif running around it that he was left a lovely planet by his family, hence having mum and dad and his sister and brother are in the if they're not easy to pull out, I won't bother, but they're in the sleeves as well. Some lovely hard stock this, which I love. The Neil goes to the effort, they're on the booklet and things. Sister and brother are in here. What is his sister and brother? I think I've lost Neil's sister and brother. I'm sorry, Neil, I've lost your family. Oh no, there's his wee sister there. So yeah, you get the point. And rather wonderfully, Neil labels them all on the spine to tell you what this series is. And this is just a regular record, so this is just on the ORS, the original record series, whatever it's called. And this is volume 52. So this is 52nd studio record, which is just unreal. Add on to that all the archive releases. Last year we had we didn't have Archives 3, which has been postponed to this year, but we had an archival box set for Noise and Flowers, the 2019 tour with Promise of the Real. We had the Harvest 50 box, which is separate from any archive series release, and then we had the special release series Toast, that came out last year as well. Crazy Horse unreleased album from 2001, some of which would be re-recorded for Are You Passionate, the album we did with Booker T and the MGs, which was from 2002. So this is brilliant. Even I can't pick it because it's a 20-year-old's recording, but this is brilliant. This is his new album is brilliant too, in a completely different way. So actually, if you want to get these two, you'll have two very different versions of Crazy Horse doing two very different jobs. Throw in Harvest 50 that I'd imagine more casual fans will love, and throw in the Promise of the Real live record. which is where the Promise of the Real really excel with Neil. They can do as heavy as the Horse and as subtle as the Stray Gators. I love, and I don't think they ever captured it on record, unfortunately, with the Lukas Nelson and the Promise of the Real, but definitely on stage, because I saw them. They were as tense as you could possibly imagine, and surrounding himself with young guys made Neil seem young again as well, just like back in the old grungy days, if I can paraphrase Ambulance Blues. When he was surrounding himself with Eddie Vedder and the like, it brought him a bit more freshness, and that happened when he was on stage with Lukas Nelson and things. So that isn't what we get here. It's a bunch of old guys celebrating being old, and saying we're leaving a worse world than the one that we were left by this generation. What can we do about that? But never been, they're preaching this, but come on, Neil's always been preachy. He's not one to be allegorical if you think something needs to be bang on the nose. So, some things are too important to be coy over and let people not get the message. Anyway, I'll stick a couple of tracks below, as usual, but I think you knew that Neil Young was probably going to be on this list at some point. My good buddy Tyler did have this in his top 10. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do that because it's an archive release. It's an archive. Still worthy of a mention, so I don't blame T at all. Don't blame. He's too nice to blame for anything. If he punched me in the face, I wouldn't even blame him. I wouldn't blame most people for punching me in the face. I think everyone deserves a free swing. Anyway, that's the end of this here video. Stay very safe out there, and I'll be back tomorrow with our next pick, which is going to be one of the more obscure ones, I think, but because I taped a whole bunch today. I don't do these every single day. I tape a bunch. Don't tell the others. That's just between me and you. Stay very safe out there, and love and indeed mercy to you and your friends tonight.